Ash Reed didn't launch a review website about household products because of some lifelong interest in home decor. Instead, his interest came about simply because he was moving into a new house and needed to furnish it. While it was easy to search for products listed on retailers like Amazon and Walmart, he realized that there wasn't a good directory for direct to consumer goods that are sold directly through a company's website. So he created a database of direct to consumer companies and published it to the web. The audience feedback was so strong that he decided to build out an entire website dedicated to covering and reviewing D2C home products. Ash launched Living Cozy in 2020, and over the next few years, he scaled the site to over 350,000 monthly page views. What started out as simple product curation soon led to an in-depth review process and him hiring a network of freelance writers to review items like sofas and beds. How did Ash manage to break into such a saturated market category that was already dominated by much larger websites? In an interview, we talked about his introduction to direct-to-consumer products, his clever use of search keywords, and how he coordinated the shipment of large pieces of furniture to reviewers all over the world. Hello, I'm Simon Owens, and this is The Business of Content, the show about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. If you want to listen to an audio version of this show, subscribe to The Business of Content wherever you get your podcasts. Before we jump into the interview, I want to point out that there's no advertising on this podcast. The only way to support the work that I do here is by becoming a paid subscriber to my newsletter. If you feel like this show has ever helped you in your career, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Go to simonowens.substack.com. That's simonowens.substack.com. Or just Google the words Simon Owens and newsletter. Okay, on to my interview with Ash. Hey Ash, thanks for joining us.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it and look forward to chatting with you.
So we're going here to talk about a website that you launched around, furniture and home appliances and stuff like that. But before we jump into that, I'd love to hear just about originally how you got into content, how you got into marketing, like how you got into this entire world that led to you launching a media company.
Yeah, so it was kind of accidental, to be honest. I started out when I was like 17, 18. I just knew I wanted to eventually run my own company. I had no idea what that would be or what that would look like. And a friend and I started just trying to build websites. We failed miserably, as 17, 18-year-olds mostly do. We didn't really have a clue about how anything worked. But from there kind of ended up going into a web agency job that involved learning a bit of copywriting, producing emails for clients, things like that. And then kind of realized like actually quite enjoy writing. It's something I was reasonably good at, and started just kind of blogging on my own website. And after probably a couple of years, ended up getting a freelance gig with a company called Crew, which eventually turned into Unsplash. But like that was the first piece I ever got paid to write. And from there, really just kind of doubled down on it, focused on it, freelancing, worked for a bunch of different companies. And eventually that kind of led me to working at Buffer and being like a full-time content marketer.
And what is Buffer?
So Buffer is a social media management software. It's been around for probably 13, 14 years now. I joined probably 7 or 8 years ago now, and spent like 6 years of my career there. Started as like a content crafter was the role they called it, but it was essentially a writer, and worked my way up to like leading the content and brand team as part of the overall marketing organization within Buffer.
Yeah, and I'm sure my audience maybe knows Hootsuite, and it's basically a Hootsuite competitor, right?
Yeah, Hootsuite, but kind of aimed at like the really small SMB markets, kind of like freelancers and very small companies.
And while you were at Buffer, I think the company started some kind of, or built some kind of product for direct-to-consumer businesses. What was that product?
Yeah, so Buffer's social media scheduling tools kind of haven't really like changed a ton over the years, but like we lacked a real kind of target customer. Like we were trying to build for everyone, and I think in that respect kind of built for no one. And that led us to kind of really focus on D2C and e-commerce businesses because they were at like the cutting edge of social. They were wanting to try the new features. They were always wanting to like push the product and test the limits of what Buffer could do. So they gave us a really strong like focus on who we're building for. And like that was kind of like where I really started to learn about e-commerce and the direct-to-consumer industry, and really led me on the path to like launching Living Cozy.
And direct to consumer, just to clarify, those are like products where rather than going through a traditional retailer, they try to use all their marketing and advertising and all those, all those tools to direct people to their own website, where they're basically trying to cut out the middleman, where they're trying to sell to you directly, usually by mailing a product to your home, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's essentially trying, I think, to offer, the best quality products at the best prices, because you cut off like the 20-30% markups that most retailers will put on products.
Yeah. So like, Soylent is one that I've, bought over the years, where I would just go directly to their website and I would order directly from them. There's also a bunch of mattress companies now, furniture companies, things like that, where their whole shtick is, mattresses are really expensive. Why don't you cut out the middleman and you'll save a bunch of money by going to our web, Casper being, the most famous one of those.
Yeah, definitely. There was, I think the last 10 years or so, they've really kind of sprung up. And yeah, home is one of the biggest categories for direct consumer brands. Because I think, like the high price points and, for brands to be able to offer high quality furniture at less than retail stores, like that's an exciting proposition for consumers.
So how did you start actually getting, because you were interested in direct to consumer businesses, but then you also developed an interest specifically in like furniture and home products too, because you had moved into a new place or something like that?
Yeah, that's it. So, around the time I was working with D2C brands at Buffer, I'd also moved home, and I knew there were lots of really interesting D2C brands in the home space. Not quite as many in the UK as the US, but it is a growing industry over here with more and more popping up all the time. And yeah, I kind of wanted to shop with these brands when I moved house, but it was actually really hard to find them. The D2C playbook is mostly through ads on social channels, so like Facebook, Instagram, now TikTok. And the only way I was really discovering these brands was when they would advertise to me. So I started a spreadsheet, and just every time I discovered one of the brands through ads, I would put it on the spreadsheet, with a few details like location, whether it's UK, US, what products they sold, and eventually just decided to turn that into a directory, just to kind of like give myself a weekend project, really. It was the middle of like the COVID lockdowns, like there wasn't a lot going on. So it kind of allowed me to fill a spare weekend with a little project. Also gave me a chance to use Webflow, which is like a no-code builder, which enables people that aren't like engineers to build their own websites visually and without the need to code. So yeah, put it together over a weekend. It was called Home Supply at the time, and just kind of tweeted it out, and it got a really good response. Like it wasn't like viral, but there was probably like 10, 15 people respond to the tweet and message me and say it was cool. And that kind of made me feel like there must be something there, and it's something worth spending a bit more time on.
So the value proposition of the site was, there was like the only way to find a lot of these direct to consumer brands is just happening to have them advertised to you. There was no way to be like, okay, I want to get a couch. What are all the direct to consumer couches? My only option is just go on Amazon or whatever home retail outlet out there, but that wouldn't give you actually all the direct to consumer. That would just give you the brands that are using traditional retail. So this directory was like, let's say you don't want to go through Amazon, here are all the brands that you could look at their websites directly and order from them directly. And that was the core value proposition.
Yeah, that's it. Like I kind of settled on like the tagline of like discover the internet's best home and furniture brands. And yeah, like that was essentially it. It was just like, if you want everything in one place, like come to this website and we have a nice, easy to navigate directory to find them.
So how did it evolve from there to a rebrand and then, a more robust content offering?
Yeah, so I kind of wasn't overly happy with the domain when I launched it. It was just like homesupply.co. It was something I very quickly found just to launch it. And I really wanted to get a .com. I feel like, it doesn't really matter these days, but I just feel like a .com feels a lot nicer. So yeah, I spent a weekend or a few weeks in the end, just like trying to find a name, and it turned out that like livingcozy.com was for sale. I think I paid about $500 for it, but I really liked the domain, and wanted to kind of have a more like permanent home I was happy with if I was going to invest in building this site. And, after the initial kind of interest from tweeting out the site had passed, I kind of sat down and was like, well, if I'm going to build this, like I need to get sustainable traffic. It's a side project. It's something I'm doing alongside my day job. Like I don't have budgets to spend on ads. How can I acquire readers? And, my background is in SEO, and it's in growing, website traffic, like mostly for B2B software brands. But I figured, it gives me a chance to like apply that in my own space, build my own project, and also kind of like provided a more unique challenge, than kind of like building on an already like authoritative domain. So like buffer, so like domain authority, it's a metric that like Ahrefs and other SEO tools use to kind of say like how authoritative a website is. So like how many people link to it, and how, in very simple terms, like how easy it would be for that site to rank for certain keywords. Like Buffer was like a 90 something, livingcozy.com was like a 0. So it just kind of presented me with a completely different challenge and gave me the chance to like scale something up from 0. Like at Buffer, we'd hit over 1 million readers a month. And, starting again from 0 was just like a completely fresh challenge. And something that was fun. I mean, it's definitely grueling. Like there was definitely like weekends where I sat writing about like stools and bar stools on like a Saturday morning and wondering what I was doing. But yeah, eventually, it started to pay off.
So what did
Yeah, I
that what
launched
did
the
that
site.
content look like? Like what were you how were you picking things to write about, and then what how were you gathering the information to actually write about that stuff?
Yeah, so initially I was kind of looking for like results or like keywords in Google that had kind of lower competition. And like one of the first articles I wrote that started getting traffic, and like again, this isn't like huge traffic, it's probably like 10 visits a day, was a guide focused on direct to consumer furniture brands. So, whenever anyone searched direct to consumer furniture brands, I wanted to like rank number one. There weren't any like big name publishers going after that keyword at the time.
Yeah, and so you're using these tools where you're looking to exploit discrepancies between search volume and actual results. So like you want to find something where it has relatively high search volume, but there's not actually a lot of competition for that at those actual search results. So so a lot of new brands try to exploit that. It's basically like an arbitrage of SEO, basically, right?
Yeah, that's it. So like there's certain things that I kind of look for in those opportunities. So there's like how fresh is the content that's currently ranking on that results page. So like if it's more than a couple of years old, there's like a really good opportunity to get in there and take that spot. If you click on the link and like it's not actually great content, like I used to call it, or I still do call it, like throwaway content, and that's kind of content that I see as ranking because it's on something like apartmenttherapy.com, which is a high authority domain, but it's not great content. It's maybe like 300 words. It hasn't been touched for a couple of years. Like there's not any like real expert insight. So yeah, it was essentially like looking for those opportunities where a fresh site could rank, and then just like trying to publish as much content as I could.
So you're picking these topics, but in the early days, because this was like a side hustle, it's not like you were getting your hands on these products. It was more like you were taking publicly available information elsewhere and then creating lists and stuff like that, kind of packing it with that information.
Yeah, so the approach I took, I kind of called it just like layering up the content. So it was, in my view, I think like published is better than sat in drafts. So, for example, the direct consumer furniture guide, I would just list maybe like 15 direct consumer furniture brands in that, use information that's like already available on their website, comments that customers have had to kind of talk about the brand. And then that would be like V1, and I would put that out there. Then as the site started to get a little bit more traffic, I would reach out to people that worked at these brands, or if possible, the founders of these brands, and ask them for like comments about how they launch, what makes them unique, like why customers love them, just to get like another perspective. And then kind of like the next level above that, and this is like, skipping ahead probably 12 months when the site's bigger and brands are kind of more willing to work with us, is actually like getting our hands on the products and getting reviewers to write about the products, and then like featuring our own first-hand experiences in all of this content. But yeah, that's skipping ahead a little bit.
So the middle stage was you started reaching out and actually conducting interviews and publishing those interviews as like original content with like the CEOs or the people who were the heads of these products.
Yeah, that was it. So like my initial strategy was just to like work through the list of brands that I had on the site, and then you'll quite often see like brands, whether it's like software or e-commerce, they'll have a press page, and it just has all of like the reviews and all of the interviews that their team's done. And that's kind of how I prioritized which brands to reach out to, because I kind of assume like if they have a press page, they are focused on getting press coverage. They're going to be more willing to do interviews. And in SEO, like backlinks are incredibly important to show Google that your site's an authority in a certain niche. And relevant backlinks are ideal. So if I could get backlinks from furniture brands and the topic I talk about on the website is furniture brands, like that's a perfect match.
So they would like link to it on their press page.
Yeah. So like as soon as I'd like published the interview, I would just send it over to them and just kind of say like, any chance you could link to it on the press page, and like 9 times out of 10 they would, because they like to share their coverage. So yeah, that was kind of the initial way that I would build a bit of authority, and then also just start to build relationships with brands in the space, because like that was a key thing to scale, was just like getting to know brands and like being able to email founders or like marketing managers at all of the brands that we promoted and worked with.
So you're publishing these interviews, you're getting some backlinks. How quickly did your audience start ramping up from there?
Yeah, so it took a long time. Like as I said, there was a lot of weekends and evenings where I was kind of wondering why I was sat there, writing these furniture guides when no one was really reading them. But I launched the site, so homesupply.co, that launched in April 2020. I moved it over to livingcozy.com in like June or July 2020. And then by December 2020, we had the first month that we crossed like 30,000 page views. But that like really started to ramp up through October, November, December. It was like a real kind of slog in those early days. But there was one thing that like really kept me going, and that was the site made some money. So after about 6 weeks, we sold some bedding. Someone clicked on one of our links to a bedding brand. They bought the product. I made £9.37 from that sale, which, yeah, if you break it down over an hourly rate for how much I'd put into the site, it really wasn't worth it. But it gave me this like belief that there was something here and that like it could make money. I think like that first, £9.37, it felt way more amazing than like my paycheck at the end of the month. Even though it definitely wouldn't pay my mortgage or bills, but yeah, it really spurred me on to keep going.
Yeah. So so how did you then start get to the point where these direct to consumer brands were actually mailing you products to test?
Yeah, so that took a little bit longer. It was probably like mid 2021, like Q2 heading into like Q3 before we really managed to get our hands on the products. But it kind of came through growing traffic. So that was really important. Like once we hit like 100,000 page views a month, that felt substantial, and that was something that like brands would care about. We were also driving clicks to brands. So people were clicking the links on livingcozy.com, checking out brand websites. And we were also driving sales. So we used an app called Skimlinks when we first launched. And like Skimlinks basically turns every external link on your website into an affiliate link. So you can get a commission if someone clicks that link and buys the product from it. And from there, like we could get the data, and like I could reach out to Burrow, for example. Like they're a direct-to-consumer furniture brand. Like they started out launching like a modular sofa, and have grown a lot since then to be like dining room, bedroom, outdoor furniture. But you know, like I could reach out to them and say like, I'm the founder of Living Cozy. We generate this many page views, like 125,000 page views a month. Last month we sent 500 clicks to Burrow. We made 5 sales worth this much to you. And that kind of enabled me to like put together a compelling reason as to like why they should send us products, and kind of give them confidence that like they would get ROI from it, right? Like sending out a $2,500 sofa to a random blogger like isn't a good strategy, but sending it out to a blogger that you know is driving conversions for your brand is a completely different story. So yeah, that was kind of how we got it.
And just to contextualize, like Skimlinks is like a marketplace platform where any direct consumer brand or retailer, they can sign up for the platform, and basically it's so that the individual content creator, especially one just starting out that doesn't have the weight to get like specialized affiliate links, they can go and sign up for an account, and it'll automatically pull those affiliate links and insert them into there so that you can get a commission, and then they get to benefit from you driving sales from them. So it's just to kind of simplify the entire process of getting affiliate links, at least to start out, right?
Yeah. So like Skimlinks works with probably like tens of thousands of brands across industries. And just putting like one line of code on your website enables you to generate sales and revenue from all of those brands. So that was like really, really helpful for me because it just helped me to, you know, gather data, see what was working, see if there's any specific like products that sell well, any brands that sell well. And then once I had the data, I could reach out and try and build like one-to-one relationships with those brands.
Yeah, because the downside of Skimlinks is it's a middleman, so it takes its affiliate cut. So the affiliate sale or the affiliate rate that you're getting is less lucrative than if you establish a direct relationship with the brand where they give you your own custom affiliate link. That's when you start making a lot more per sale that you drive.
Yeah, that's it. And like once you get the direct relationships with brands as well, it opens up a host of opportunities. You know, not just for like product reviews and them shipping you products, but you can get like specialized discount codes. You can get increased commission. You can just get like a heads up when new products are launching and like on their PR lists. Like there's a ton of benefits that come from like graduating from Skimlinks to like direct brand relationship.
So all of a sudden you have these brands shipping you $2,500 sofas. Did you have to develop some kind of methodology or something for testing them out? Or like, how did you learn how to like review products?
Yeah, so the most challenging part initially was like I'm based in the UK and none of these brands ship over here. So I needed to get a bunch of reviewers across the US that could help me with these pieces. And you know, it's also challenging because if you find one really good reviewer, they can probably do like one, maximum 2 sofas before they just don't have room for it anymore.
Well, that was my question is what do you do with the product after, because these are huge things. These aren't like little gadgets and gizmos. These are like huge pieces of furniture.
Yeah, so like honestly, I think it was one of the sweetest like freelance writing gigs you could get for a while because if the brands gift the product, then they don't have to be sent back. It's for the reviewer to keep. So they would get their fee for writing the article, and then on top of that, you know, they could keep the sofa. And I was just like, look, if you like it, keep it. If you don't, like, put it on marketplace, resell it, like whatever you want to do with it. You know, it's no good to me. I'm like 4,000 miles away. So there's not a lot I can do with it. But yeah, it was quite hard. Like I think at one point we had probably like 10, 11 sofas like going to different reviewers across the US. And, you know, to make it easier, like I put together a fairly like formulated review structure. And, you know, it was just kind of like I could send it out to the writers with bullet points in terms of like, here's what you talk about in the introduction. Here's how I want you to talk about like actually living with the sofa. Like, here are the key points. Like, people want to know how comfortable they are. Like, are the cushions soft? Are they firm? Like, all of the details that people want to know when they buy. And I could just make sure that the reviewers, would touch on all of those points. And importantly, like, also take photos, because it's like really important to have original photos of product reviews, because it's another signal, not just to Google, but to people reading the content, that like you have actually got your hands on these. Because if you want to be deceptive, and like some sites do this, you can just write through the perspective of having reviewed something and just use stock images from the brand and make it look like it's a review, but really it's not.
Was it kind of nerve-wracking to trust these reviewers? Because, like, obviously a brand is only going to send you one $2,500 sofa. And if that reviewer then ghosts you and never gets around to writing the review, that's probably like a huge loss on your part, right?
Yeah, it was. Like the first reviews, I went out to people that I'd done work with in the past. So I had a like roster of like 3 consistent writers that produce content every month for Living Cozy, and like they were my first go-tos. But like, yeah, I would also tweet out about opportunities to review products, and we always went with writers that had a ton of experience, like often like bylines at like the New York Times or Apartment Therapy or other big sites. So like that was definitely like a trust factor from me as well. Of like, if they do work with these big brands, like they aren't gonna just like ghost and not deliver on what they've been asked to for this project. But yeah, it was certainly like nerve-wracking having them all going out all over the US, having the brands chasing about like when the review would be published and what we were saying about them. So yeah, there was a lot to do there, but like that was honestly like a key part of the site growing, was just like that dedication to like making sure we had first-hand experience with products.
So what happened at that point? Like, once you finally built up that network and you had a steady flow of reviews, what did that do for both the business and the traffic?
Yeah, so everything really started accelerating at that point. So just to rewind a little bit, like the real kicker for me was December 2021. There was a Google update, and Living Cozy lost about 20% of its traffic. And I was kind of like working through trying to like analyze what's happened here, like what's Google looking for that we aren't doing. And the thing I landed on was the first-hand reviews. It was something that had been on my list for ages, but because of everything I've just explained and like how hard it is to organize, I just hadn't got around to doing it. It's still a side project at this point. So yeah, like the real kicker was like I'd lost a bit of traffic, and I was like, okay, to fix this, I need to take the content to the next level. I need to make it better. I need to do more first-hand reviews. And yeah, like once we published them, each review had its own standalone page. So we had a review section, so you could read like the full Burrow sofa review on its own, which enabled us to rank for like branded keywords. So people searching like Burrow Nomad sofa review, they would land on our site. Mm-hmm. But then we would also go through all of the other pieces of content on the site where we mention like the Burrow Nomad sofa, and we would reference that review, we'd link back to it, we would get a quote from the reviewer and include it in there. So if we're talking about the best sectional sofas, we'll include a first-hand quote from someone that's tested that exact sofa within that section on the guide, and like that helped us to rank for like really, really high traffic keywords like best sectional sofas, modular sofas, most comfortable sofas.
Yeah.
And like those roundups were really what was generating the traffic. And yeah, it just kind of continued to scale and scale. And January 2023, we hit 350,000 page views a month for the first month, which was awesome, or for the first time.
Yeah, and just to kind of drill down on that, that's something that I've heard from other e-commerce focused publishers. Like I interviewed the folks at Man of Mini, which is an Australian consumer site, and they started out writing about individual products, but it wasn't until they started compiling those products into lists like best camping gear and stuff like that. Those were the things that were, so the original content that you're creating around reviews, that obviously like that's great content, but where you were seeing most of your Google traffic is when you took all those sofas and then ranked them in a list or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. 'Cause, like most people, like when they turn to Google, like they're kind of like the larger section of people, they don't know specifically what they want, but they know they want a sectional sofa. So that's where like a lot of the traffic is in those broad terms. And then in the kind of like branded terms, like borrow sectional sofa, like these people are further through the funnel. They know they want to buy, or they're at least tempted to buy a borrow sofa, and they just want a third party perspective. So like, yeah, those kind of longer tail keywords are great for that, but the broad keywords like sectional sofas, yeah, they're the roundup pieces, and that's where the majority of your traffic will come from. But it's kind of like the way I look at it is like, you are kind of essentially building like a castle brick by brick, and each piece of content is like one brick, and you can't rank for those big keywords if you don't have all of those bricks in place. So yeah, it's all interconnected and helps. Every new piece of content helps everything else to rank.
And now that you have these direct relationships with the brands, it wasn't that much extra work to then argue for them to give you a special affiliate link that had a higher commission rate.
Yeah, yeah. So like once we had the direct relationships with brands, it was easier to kind of work with them directly on whichever affiliate platform they use. So like Share a Sale, Pepper Jam, Impact, like these are all like the individual platforms that brands use to manage their programs that then all feed into skim links. But yeah, like once I had those relationships, I could show them the data, and I could make the case for like why we should work closer together. Why we should maybe have a higher commission rate than we were previously on. The value of actually sending us a review. Once we had a few reviews as well, I could kind of say like across the site, all of the reviews we have get over 30,000 page views a month, and show them how reviews are kind of implemented within these high traffic roundup like listicles, like sectional sofas. And yeah, that just made it a much easier sell, and yeah, much easier to kind of build those stronger relationships with brands.
And did you ever get into like more newsy content, like product launches or different stuff like that, or was it 100% focused on more evergreen stuff?
So it was mostly focused on the evergreen stuff. Probably like 95% of what we done was evergreen search focused content. We did do some like launch posts, and often what we'd do there is we'd kind of work directly with the brand on some kind of like launch campaign where they're like, we've got this new product coming out in October, how can Living Cozy help us promote it? And we would just package together some sort of like launch post on the blog, a feature in our email newsletter, and sometimes we'd also couple that with like a Facebook ads package. So like we would whitelist them to run ads on Living Cozy's page. So essentially what that does is like it allows them to create their own branded ads, but they come from Living Cozy rather than the brand. And those those ads tend to have a more cost effective like click through rate than ones that come directly from brands, because they don't necessarily feel like adverts. So yeah, like the focus on like the kind of newsy like launch stuff, that was more like packaged together into like direct brand deals and sponsorships rather than something that would generate us traffic on its own.
So that was more kind of like a traditional advertising arrangement versus an affiliate arrangement.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
And did you ever expand beyond written content? Did you ever like do like video reviews or anything like that?
Yeah, so we done a few videos, and like the good thing about having like high traffic SEO pages is it's like really valuable real estate. And I kind of knew if we put videos on there, we can like guarantee views, because I think we've only got about 100 like subscribers to our YouTube channel, but there's over 80,000 views on the 5 or 6 videos that we published. And that's because we were able to take those videos and embed them in high traffic pages. So we done one with like a Burrow sofa where we shipped it to a videographer in Seattle. He reviewed it, put it together, lived with it for a couple of weeks, made a like blog style video about it. And we were able to embed that wherever we mentioned that sofa on Living Cozy's website. And yeah, like it was great for the brand because people are looking at their products, people are spending 3 to 5 minutes kind of learning about it, seeing how a real person experienced it. And it's great for us because it's another trust signal for readers and for Google that like we are getting our hands on these products, we know what we're talking about, and also like helps with time on page. So if someone's really serious about buying a sofa, they're going to watch like a 3 to 5 minute video about it. And again, that's another trust signal to Google that like when someone lands on livingcozy.com, they get good content and it's worth sticking around for.
And did you ever get a sense that you were building like a readership at all, or was it all drive-by traffic of people when they were just doing research?
Yeah, so it was a lot of kind of like, drive-by visitors, people like searching for specific products at specific moments. We did grow an email list, so there's around 4,500 subscribers, and it was a focus for like 2023 to try and like scale that list, to not rely fully on Google traffic. And we also kind of started to work on a bit more like interior design advice style content, which isn't so much like in the moment. So that there's stuff on the site that's useful if you just care about interior design and want to create a house that you love. There's that option as well.
And so you eventually decided to sell the site. What went into that decision?
Yeah, so it was a long time coming, the decision. It's something that I was thinking about for probably 12 months before it actually sold. And I think the reason I initially thought about selling was that like it started to get good traffic, it started to generate good revenue, and the multiples for content sites at the time were really good. So like content sites tend to be valued based on a multiple of monthly profit, and that can be anywhere from like 20 times monthly profit all the way up to like 50 times monthly profit, averaged out over the trailing 12 months. So I had a kind of calculator built in a spreadsheet where I would just like update the revenue and profit figures every month. That would spit out various multiples of what the site could be worth. And I had like a number in my mind where I was like, if I can reach that, then I think I should sell. Because for me, it was just like, I loved running the site. It was great to build. But I also think at a certain point, like it's just worth taking chips off the table and then kind of figuring out like what to do next. Because like it is a volatile industry. There's a lot of changes happening on Google all the time. There's AI looming. I also think like Living Cozy is a really high quality site that I think like the right buyers could pick up and continue to scale. But yeah, for me, it just like it made sense to essentially like take the chips off the table. And yeah, it was a process that I was thinking about for about 12 months. And from listing the site for sale to closing the deal probably took about 5 months.
And so what's been happening since then?
So yeah, we actually only closed the deal at the end of August. So yeah, we're talking in like mid-September, mid to late September. So it's been like 3 to 4 weeks, and yeah, I've been like helping the new owners with like transitioning to like running the site, which there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to pick up, especially in like the kind of brand relationship side. So that's been really good, like helping them get off to a flying start there. And yeah, I think also for me, just like kind of thinking, like what's next? What would I like to build? What industries really excite me? What industries would I be keen to kind of focus on for, say, like 5, maybe 10 years? Also, like without selling in the back of my mind. I've been able to build and sell once. Like, I now kind of feel like I can build without essentially having a cash out in the back of my mind. So focusing on like what I can build next, like looking at local as one opportunity, and also health and fitness as a kind of fairly broad niche, and just kind of thinking through like what I could build in that space.
But still to be determined.
Yeah, still like there's a lot of conversations going on. Like, I'm definitely going to build something in health and fitness. I've been talking to like some partners in that space about like working with them to kind of scale a media brand, which I think will be really exciting. And then local is just kind of like a bit of a passion project and something that I would like to see fixed. Like, local media is a bit of a mess over here in the UK. There's tons of opportunity, but it's also a hard thing to scale because like our towns, maybe a big town has like 120,000 people. It's not like a kind of big US city where there's like 2 million people you can target with content. Like, it's super niche over here.
Yeah. Okay, Ash. Well, those were all the questions I have for you. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, so Twitter, it's ashreed underscore, so ASHREAD underscore. And then, LinkedIn, type in my name, I'm sure you'll find me. And then, my website is frontcourt.studio. That's the business I set up about 10 years ago for like random freelance projects. And now it's kind of the home to my niche sites.
Awesome. Well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Simon. Appreciate it.